everyone enjoy a wonderful festive season by engaging in random acts of safety, physical, emotional, and psychological. Join us as we do good, be good over the festive season, bring a smile, help someone feel less lonely, and possibly change a life this December. I am Nuala.
And I am Karen. And we are the Safety Collaborators.
Our mission is to help people have better conversations and change the way they think about safety. Consider us your thinking partners, sharing expertise and wisdom in everything safety, safety culture, and psychological safety.
So today's episode, we are going to talk about random acts of safety, and we invite you to join our yearly campaign. We did do this around this time last year and the year before, in fact, although I don't think we did a podcast the first time round, but we certainly did last year, and it was so long ago that we're doing it again. So let's have a look at what a random act of safety actually is. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to you, Nuala, again, because you were the one who really brought this idea to life. And so what encouraged you to think about this random act of safety? What was it based on?
Safety is something that has been very close to my heart for a long time. And when I started looking at the random acts of kindness movement, which is all about, small things to make kindness the norm, I was like, well, why don't we do the same around random acts of safety? Because safety doesn't have to be this whole big hoo-ha. It doesn't have to be a risk assessment or a toolbox talk, or it doesn't have to be a formalized process. And the more we practice small acts around safety, the more it becomes our norm and the more it becomes a part of our everyday DNA around choosing to keep ourselves and those around us safe. So it was very much inspired by the Random Acts of Kindness movement. And when we launched the Random Acts of Safety, it was something that I was like, oh my word, the whole world needs to get onto this now. And it's a bit of a slow burn, I'm not going to lie.
It is.
But that's okay, because it is something that is still very close to my heart, and it is something I'm still incredibly passionate about. And it's not something that we do once a year, but it is something that I love that we've chosen to highlight around this time of the year as we move into the festive season or holiday season. There's such a different shift around where our focus and our attention lies that it's a good time to look around and enjoy the festivities, but also keep people safe. For some of us, and I think I'm getting better, there was a long time where I did not enjoy this time of the year. And it kind of actually made me feel a little bit down and low. But I haven't been home for the festive season or for Christmas for a couple of years now. And this year, my great nephew just turned 7. He's all bubbly and engaged and so excited, and that enthusiasm is rubbing off on me. So for the first time in a long time, I'm actually quite excited about going into the festive season. I might even put up a Christmas tree. Watch the space.
Well, funny you say that, because this year is the first year in probably 5-6 years that I am actually going to do that, because this year, for the first time in a very, very, very long time, I'm actually going to do Christmas lunch.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
In my world, we call it an orphan's lunch. We're not orphans, but we're either from different parts of the world or whatever. So it'll be a small gathering of half a dozen, maybe 8 people. And interestingly, I am, like you, quite excited about, hopefully my Christmas tree works, because it's been in a box for a while. And I'm starting to look for things that might bring a bit of joy to the house and to the festive season. But don't get me wrong, I mean, I usually go out for lunches and things, but there's something different, I think, about inviting people into your home and into your world for that festive lunch. And anyone who knows me knows I love a long lunch, so this will start early and end late.
Exactly, yeah. Don't think you're getting home early.
Oh, no. 2 of my friends have already booked the spare
Fabulous.
room. So
Love
sorry
it.
for you. You can't be there. They'll be in your bedroom.
That's okay.
So,
and it's lovely to hear that,
Yeah.
But for many people out there, it's just not that easy.
No, it's not.
This time of the year.
I think this time of year is, we use the word pressure cooker, and I think it is an end of year pressure cooker. So whether you're away from home, at home, or just dealing with life. And we all will react differently to this time of the year. For me, I'm not in my motherland, if you like, so Christmas is very different, or this time of year. It isn't just Christmas for everybody because we have lots of people listening to this. But there is a lot of commercial pressure, I think, on this time of year for people as well, which we need to be mindful of. There's the cost of living, so not everybody's looking forward to this time of year is where I'm heading.
Yeah.
If you look at the news, which I made that fatal error over the weekend, I looked at the news for the first time in ages and I went, it's just sad. So just avoid it. And it's not about
being an ostrich and sticking your head in the ground.
Exactly, thank you. It's not about that.
But it's about managing your emotional well-being.
Exactly. That's exactly what this is about, So do what's right for you. So if you're away from home or if you have lost a loved one in recent times, the list goes on, and that loved one could be a pet. I have a friend of mine who recently lost 2 pets in 1 week. I mean, it's just so sad. What can we do to make things a little bit lighter or better? And that's really what this episode and what our principle around the random acts of safety is all about. We've got some ideas. So, we've got your back. We've got some ideas that might help you see through that.
Like I mentioned, just starting off with random acts of safety. And it doesn't have to be something big.
Absolutely not.
So this weekend, left the great nephew's 7th birthday party. It was absolutely lovely. And we decided, you know what, actually, we still want to cook dinner. So stopped at the shops, and as I was leaving, there was a vehicle reversing out of their parking lot, and I could see that it was a VW. So if anyone drives a VW, the boot with the round circle, and that lifts up when the boot's open. And I could see that the boot wasn't closed. And I was like, oh. So I stopped the gentleman, and him and his wife had clearly been shopping for either renovations or whatever because their vehicle was full of stuff. And I said to him, I've just noticed that your boot isn't closed properly. And he was like, oh my goodness, really? And I could see him looking down. And then I don't know whether the light was even registering or not, if it was closed enough just to not register. And his wife jumped out the car and she rearranged some stuff and then closed the boot properly. And he was like, thank you so much. I could have walked on by. I could have walked past and gone, oh, look at that, their boot isn't closed properly. And it could have opened up on the motorway, a whole lot of stuff coming out of the back of the vehicle, damaging other vehicles, potentially killing somebody, and I would never have known the difference. So I would like to believe that I helped keep people safe that in that little moment, and it was, 2 minutes of my time of the day, but also got them home safely.
Exactly. I was at a local vintage seller. I was looking for a mirror for my guest bedroom, and we were actually having a chat about random acts of safety. Not the words particularly yesterday, but there was a few of us sort of just chatting around, and the person that's running that store, Chris, and I wanted a mirror that was sort of high up on the wall. And then we started to have the classic conversation around grab the closest thing you can to stand on.
I was going to say, chair versus ladder.
Yeah, exactly. And it was funny, he said, because he kind of knows what we do, actually. And he went, probably shouldn't do that while you're here. And I went, let me share a story. I was in my own home, and when we're in our own home, sometimes we don't do what we probably should. And, that's the proverbial trying to change a light bulb. And it was a friend of mine who has nothing to do with the industry that we're in around safety or conversations around being safe. And I was about to step onto this rickety old stool. This was a while ago, to be fair. And she said, Kaz, don't you have conversations about that sort of stuff with people? And I looked at her like she was from Mars. I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, is that the best thing to stand on to change a light bulb? I went, no, probably not. And my ladder, perfectly good, robust step ladder, which I always own for that very reason, was around the corner. But even when we are aware, sometimes our pure human instinct to get things done or to do whatever, we just do things without thinking. So it takes all of us to care for each other, which is what this whole conversation is about. It's not about doing anything big. It doesn't mean you have to have a degree in any of this stuff. It's just about caring for each other and not being afraid to speak up, I suppose.
Sometimes it's looking around and thinking out the box. And so often when I think of random acts of safety, it brings in random acts of kindness.
Absolutely.
So you're dealing with the pelting down cold and rain and misery of, a Scottish storm at the moment. I, on the other hand, am in the southern hemisphere and I am in between 31 and 35 degrees centigrade heat, which can lead to all sorts of things, dehydration,
Yeah.
all that stuff. And we have a lot of underprivileged people in our land.
Yes.
And that includes a lot of people standing on the side of the road, looking for work, begging for money, and they don't really have access to much. So one of the things we do here is that we will half freeze water bottles and then fill the rest up with water. And when you're driving around, hand it out to somebody who's at a traffic light so that they stay hydrated.
It's a wonderfully simple and easy thing to do. And here it's about looking around and saying, what blankets have you got? What rugs have you got that have been accumulating, and handing them out or giving them to Cyrenians or, to some of these places. Because interestingly enough, it shocks me that there is people on the streets, that there is so much homelessness, and that there is people living below the poverty line, and the cost of living is quite high. So it's getting worse. It'll be a very cold winter for some. So what do we do? What can we do? That's open to everybody wherever we are in the land, whatever land we're in. There's always someone that could do with a little help somewhere along the way.
And sometimes we don't really know where to start.
No.
And what we have done to help you figure out where to start is that we have put together an inspiring 25-day advent calendar that will start on the 1st of December and run up to the 25th. And that will be shared on all the socials. So on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on Instagram. And it's just a little something each day. And, maybe not every day will connect with you, but there will be days where you go, you know what, I can do that. And go out, give it a try. You'll be surprised what it does for the other person, but I think you'll be even more surprised what it does for you. So one of the things that we spoke about before even recording this was that sense of pressure to put on a brave face at this time of the year, or to kind of like go, I feel like I'm burning out and I'm coming to the end of my tether, but oh, guess what? I have to go to a year-end function and I have to be around everybody from work. Whereas right now I've got so many deadlines. The last thing I actually want to do is have to smile and wave. And we don't always have to put on a brave face. What is critical, especially as that pressure cooker is boiling up, is to ask ourselves, what do I need to do for my well-being right now, today? So if we think about that, what are some of the things that can help manage well-being so that we do come out of this without exploding?
I think I'd like to add to that is it is our right to have a feeling of well-being. I don't want anyone to sort of think that, oh yes, but it's not about me, it's about everybody else. That's not true. If you're not in a well space, it's more difficult to help others. So your well-being, your personal well-being is as important as anybody else's, maybe more so. Therefore, what sort of conscious choices can you make? What's going to help you? I think food and alcohol, which is something that I'm just really starting to appreciate just how much that impacts us. Maybe don't overeat during this period. Be a little bit more, there is a Japanese saying, and I don't know what it is right now, but basically if you are 80% full, that's enough. Walk away. There's going to be so much abundance in some ways, for some at least, in terms of food and lunches and dinners and events and things. Be aware of that. Maybe hold back just a little bit towards the end of every meal and you may feel better for it. Don't be afraid to rest, note to self, and do some exercise. I think I'm good at the resting bit, not so sure about the exercise bit.
Although, interestingly, I was listening to a Dr. Tara Swart podcast, just about the value of getting enough sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how that impacts our brain, how it impacts our energy, our mood, everything around that. And, the more I look into it, and I have some people that I work with or who are friends who go, oh, I survive on 4 hours sleep a day. And I'm like, you may think that you are surviving, but that's exactly what you are doing. You are only surviving.
Yeah.
And there are a myriad of reasons that impact sleep, and we're not going to go into that today. But we underestimate, especially in the drive to get as much done as possible or to meet as many targets, or I'm just going to quickly check emails before bedtime. And then we wonder why we're burning out. And I think that comes into managing our time. That's really critical. A very good friend of mine, her mom recently sadly had a stroke, and she's doing okay, but she's in a step-down facility, and her company are busy moving premises. I mean, it is absolutely chaotic. In typical fashion, it's planned to the nth degree, and just things aren't going right. And then they had a burst pipe over in the new premises over a whole lot of their stock. It was just,
Oh dear.
it's been utter chaos. It has been like one thing after the other, and she's trying to do every night visits to the hospital. And she is just burning out. And another good friend of mine and I, kind of like had a conversation with her and said, you're going to have to start managing your time, because you're not going to do any favors for your mom or your work when you are the one who ends up collapsing in a couple of weeks' time. So how can we support you to be able to juggle that a little bit more? Do we need to go and visit your mom? Can your sister get more involved in doing the evening shifts? Yes, she's got small children, but she's also got a husband. And it's okay to ask for help, to stick our hands up and go, you know what, this is what's going on in my life. Is there anyone out there who can help me?
I think this is so difficult for so many of us. And I'm thinking of the guys or the people, and I say guys as a collective term, who are working away during this time of year. When you're on the job, particularly if you're out there on a rig or a platform or somewhere, there's an expectation that you've got all the energy in the world from the minute you start your shift to the time you end it, which is quite often 12 hours, sometimes often more, the more senior you are. That's a long time to be fully on. So be mindful of that. And if you're one of those people listening to this, how can you help each other to get through those long hours? If you're in the North Sea, it gets dark early. Try and get a bit of daylight, at least, if it's just for 20 minutes during the day, if you can. For those that are on nights,
take a vitamin D supplement.
Yes, a vitamin D. Or for others in this part of the world, I cannot promote enough what I call a sun-up clock. Right? So these clocks that actually imitate sunlight. So I have one by my bed, and it's pretty much operational all year. Well, not through the summer months, it's not needed. And it just slowly, gently wakes me up. So by 6 o'clock, it's like the sun is up. And the difference it makes is insane.
Wow.
Really.
Well, actually, you told me about it so much that I have recommended it to many people I know who have immigrated to the Northern Hemisphere.
Absolutely. Couldn't live without it. I'm sure I could, but life is better with it. Right. So I think we're saying be kind to yourself, be kind to others. You don't have to spend all of your money on stuff.
Conversations that matter are where we're at. So let us know what you want to chat about. Mail us at hello@safetycollaborations.com and we'll get back to you. Now on with the show.
Being environmentally friendly and climate change, I don't know about you, Nola, but I'm finding it harder and harder to buy the knickknacks and things because they all end up in landfill for the most part. So unless it's for a 5-year-old, I really try not to do as much because we like to give. We like to give things, but do we really need it?
What we've done a lot more of is paying attention to what people mention during the year around things that are important and, things that are practical. So a friend was here the other night for dinner and I pulled out this gorgeous olive oil cardboard container that's got a little tap on it. And she was like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. That's fabulous. Where did you get it? So I was like, it's our local supermarket. But I walked into a more specialist store the other day and they had these beautiful ones, and it's a really good brand of olive oil in this floral cardboard container that I know will look stunning in her kitchen. So guess what she's getting for Christmas?
What, olive oil?
It's olive oil.
Why not? I'd be delighted if someone gave me olive oil.
Functional. Exactly. And another friend of mine was like, oh, please, can you ask your brother to make me lemon curd for Christmas?
Oh, sweet.
Yes. So we don't have to be commercial.
No, we don't.
We can be quite special. And I think that also helps us to look for the good and look for the joy, because even if it's not a great place to be at this time of the year, if we're brave enough, we can look up. And it doesn't mean that you have to put on a fake smile or anything, but it's also okay to look up and go, I can get a little bit of joy from others' joy.
Yeah.
And that's okay
Yeah.
too.
Absolutely.
When I was saying that it's okay to put your hand up and ask for help, sometimes we don't really know how to do that.
No.
Or when somebody asks us for help, we don't actually know how to say no. I can't at the moment. I don't have the capacity myself to be able to help. And we don't want to spoil friendships or relationships over that. So a couple of episodes ago, we spoke about the linguistic acts. I think it was in episode 52, around assertions and declarations and assessments and requests and offers. And I would really encourage, if that just sparks something with you and you're going, I'm not quite sure how to make requests without coming across the wrong way, or I don't know how to say no, or not now, please go and have a listen, because trust me, it will make a huge difference in how you communicate and improve your relationships around you.
So why is doing good for us? So let's look at two things. Firstly, let's look at our emotions. Now, we haven't spoken about emotions for a while in the podcast, and I just suddenly thought today, let's revisit one of our old past emotional gems. We often think that emotions are just a few different things that we feel, but we have an enormous range of emotions, and there's probably well in excess of about 250 of them, which we're not going to go through right now. But
thank goodness for that.
No. But the one that we think suits this conversation is the emotion of generosity. You might not think that generosity is emotion, but technically it is. And every emotion has a story, it has an impulse and a purpose. So the story of generosity is that it's to give without expectations. So what action does that trigger in us? It means to give without expectations. Yep, that was both the same. And the purpose of it is it provokes us to share our resources, whether that's an emotional resource, a physical resource, it doesn't matter, but it's about sharing. And I think the most important thing is to give without expectation. True generosity has no strings attached, which is really what we're saying. So we do it from the heart, if you wish. Coming back to something that Nuala just said around how we make offers and requests and what statements do we make and how do we make responses to that, it's worth noting that even though we may want to be generous in how we give of ourselves or an act of some sort, we also need to be mindful that it's okay if it's accepted and it's equally okay if it's declined, because now we're also caring for the dignity of each other. And dignity as a human being and person or situation is equally important in this. So one way to say practice generosity, of course, is by sharing a random act of safety with our community. So we do invite you to visit our website, and the link will be in the show notes to the actual page, where there is a form where you can actually share any little random acts of safety. You can share a picture or not, that's fine. And it only has to be a sentence, and we'll actually create a little blog post out of that and put it onto the website. And you can also use the hashtag random acts of safety on your socials, and we can all follow each other that way.
And learn together, because I think that's a critical part of building community,
Yeah.
is that learning.
Indeed.
And it's not just around, well, I mean, it's a big part around the feelings, but what actually happens in our brains, the neuroscience around generosity, around random acts of safety, when we do these, what happens to us?
As human beings, we are made up of chemical cocktails, essentially. So we're full of, there's lots of fancy words, neurotransmitters and hormones and etc. But really they are chemical cocktails. And they are triggered by our emotions, by our physicality, our bodies, where we find ourselves. So these chemical cocktails are running through our bodies all the time. And two important ones are oxytocin and cortisol. So cortisol is our action and stress hormone or chemical. And it's healthy in the right doses. Now, we hear the term cortisol all the time, too much and it's bad for us and all of that. If we have too much of it, it causes a lot of stress in us. And at this time of year, cortisol does tend to rise as we move into the festive season for all those areas that we mentioned a little while ago. But it's also that hormone that moves us to action. So as much as our emotions drive us to action, or our predisposition for action, cortisol is that chemical that actually moves us as well. So that's why the right doses is good. It keeps us motivated, keeps us moving forward, but too much of it does cause stress. So it can cause physical stress to the point of illness, and emotional stress to our more mental illness, if you like, or heading in that way. But overall, understanding it can contribute to our well-being. The counter chemical, if you want, is oxytocin. So this is our body's feel-good hormone or chemical. So we love this one because it's endearingly known as the hug hormone. Right, so it's responsible,
Oh, yay.
yay, your favourite, right? It's responsible for love and friendship and loyalty and much, much more. So something that's really important here is that oxytocin really only lives in our system for about 4 hours. So every shot of oxytocin lasts 3 to 4 hours. Cortisol, however, if it's compounding, will last up to 27 hours or more. So you need both.
Wow.
Right? So what we've got to learn to do is how to regulate those two hormones so that they're in balance in some ways.
And just going back to the well-being,
Yeah.
I think one of my big aha moments in the last couple of weeks has been understanding how when you are quite stressed and you think, oh, you know what, I'm going to go run on the treadmill for 45 minutes because I need to get rid of the stress, can actually be increasing your cortisol.
Yes.
And how unique every single one of us are. There isn't a sweeping brush that goes across the entire population. So for some, when your cortisol is really high and you are super stressed, maybe Pilates or yoga or a gentle walk is actually a far healthier form of exercise to get rid of the stress and then bring in the oxytocin.
Absolutely. I mean, there's other hormones and chemicals going on. So there's dopamine, etc. There's all sorts of things. But one of the even more simple things is to simply sit and close your eyes and breathe deeply. We are not that good at breathing, as it turns out.
No, as we are learning.
As we are learning at the moment. Learning to breathe through your nose and out through your nose is very different to what happens when we're actually in that state of heightened cortisol. We will probably tend, and this is not proven by science or anything, but this is what I'm guessing, and maybe it is proven by science, but I'm just not going to commit to that right now, is that we tend to shallow breathe because our body's internally very active, so we tend to go into shallow breath and we tend to breathe through our mouth. And mouth breathing is not so great for us. So learning to just sit, even if you're not in the mood for doing anything else, but just try and sit and breathe through your nose for a minute or two will do you the world of good. And that is proven by science, that if we breathe through these anxious moments or anger moments.
And deep belly breath.
Yeah. Just through the nose, in through the mouth. Don't even get too excited. Just breathe in and out through your nose, however that works for you. But you'll find that you'll want to fill your lungs.
One of my other favorite things about oxytocin is that human contact is really important for it. And, you know, you're speaking to the Queen of Hugs over here.
Yes.
And that's why it can feel so good to get a real hug.
Yes. Another way is to increase oxytocin is by hearing and witnessing stories of generosity. So it doesn't have to be physical. You can be seeing it. You know yourself. You look at those beautiful happy memes of cats playing or puppies playing or whatever. You feel good, right? Because you're hearing, you're seeing, you hear those stories. So you can actually raise your or up-regulate your oxytocin and down-regulate your cortisol by reading a good story, by listening to something that's joyful, by watching a happy movie, whatever it is. These are also acts that can help you upregulate and downregulate those two things, which is what we think about random acts of safety. The more of these stories that are there, the more that they hopefully will increase our feelings of generosity.
And just on that, I was just thinking, you know, there's a lot of people who do this on a daily basis. You know, it's just a natural inbuilt thing, but maybe you don't want your name splashed on a blog post on our website. So you can do it anonymously. That's not a problem at all.
Absolutely.
Or just put a note in to say, hey, I would like to keep my name anonymous, because it's not about me showing off what I'm doing, but I would like other people to learn from this and be able to be inspired by what I've done.
Really good point. And there is a safety in that.
So our mission has us asking, what did I do to keep someone safe today? Physical, emotional, and psychological safety. So we encourage you to join the movement and share your random act of safety on our website to inspire others, because we look forward to reading them and sharing them.
So thank you for joining us today. Always lovely to have a conversation that matters. Do connect with us via our website, safetycollaborations.com, where you will find the show notes for this episode. And starting Friday, the 1st of December, will be the first of our 25-day
Inspiration.
social advent calendar. Daily inspiration with some fun little pictures and things. So send us a message via the share space on the show notes page. Just as a side note, this does not automatically add you to a list, but if we wanted to check in with you and have that dialogue, we kind of need to know who you are. Otherwise, you're just going to get a hey you, thanks. To us, it's all about the conversation. So do follow us on LinkedIn, our Safety Collaborations company page, of course, Karen Avari or Nola Gage.
And a special shout out to some of our listeners who have given us great feedback on our podcast. And this week it's really been Graham Skinner and Ewan Gemmell. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Just some of the feedback was that, it's a friendly conversation and we learn from it. And it was so valuable learning about different types of questions. You guys are awesome and we love getting feedback. And you can help us spread the word by following us on your favorite podcast platform, share it with others. Please give us a review and make a comment on your podcast platform of choice, because that helps other people find us. And for us, it means that other people will also be having better conversations. Till next week, stay safe and stay well.